Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live stream all the way from Canada. I want to go ahead and apologize up front because I know it's going to seem like I'm delayed when I'm talking, but I am using the Wi Fi internationally at the hotel that I'm at. Okay. But I am so happy to be here with you all the way from Canada. Woo! So I'm Keisha L. Hayes, and I am a transformational leader in healthcare. I also am coming live from Canada, and I have a special guest with me. So I want to bring her on. We have a lot of topics that we're going to discuss. Her name is Andrea Shivers. So she's going to come on and tell us who she is, a little bit more about herself. And then we're going to get right into the wonderful topics that we have for today. Andrea, thank you for joining us. Please tell everybody about
Hi.
you.
Hi, Keisha. Thank you for the invite. I am super excited and very grateful for the opportunity. So, I am Andrea Chivers. I am a registered nurse. I have my master's degree in nursing, and I am the divisional leader for emergency services for MUSC Health for the Midlands Division. So, that's here in Columbia, the MUSC Downtown, Northeast, Fairfield Freestanding ED, and Kershaw Medical Center. Outside of that, I'm a mom and a wife and a sister and a friend and a true believer in growing our own and trying to educate our own so that they know what their potentials are and what they are capable of doing. So I'm grateful to be here and have the opportunity to lead someone in the right direction.
Awesome. So, a few things I want to mention. We want to make sure that we listen up tonight because we have this special guest with us, and she's going to impart with us some wisdom about a lot of different topics. If you're watching for the first time, please comment your name. Let us know it's your first time following me, and then tell us a little bit about yourself. If you're going to be watching this later, please use hashtag replay. Let us know that you did come on at a later time and that you're watching us. I want to know that you are joining in. All of you that are live now, thank you so much for joining us. I am all the way live from Canada. If you knew what it took for me to get on this live tonight, our flight was delayed several different times. We were supposed to be here after 3. We got here at the hotel at 7:32. So, nevertheless, we're here because remember, we're talking about consistency, and I can't preach consistency to you if I'm not consistent myself. So, tonight, what we're going to be doing is talking about women in healthcare leadership. We're going to talk about professionalism, mainly professional communication, handling conflict, and managing up. So, when we talk about women in healthcare leadership, we want to talk about how women really strengthen the organizations, how they improve employee retention, and the authenticity that women bring to the forefront when they are inspiring and motivating their team members. So, Andrea, you got something you want to say about women in leadership and how important we are? Because I'm grateful to have somebody like you in healthcare leadership.
Absolutely. We are very important because I feel like women in leadership bring a different aspect to leadership when it comes to building teams and cultures and removing toxicity from environments. We have the capability of doing a lot of different things. We can also be sometimes the culprit of bringing the negativity and the toxicity to an environment. But we have to be charged with the responsibility to bring positivity, to bring growth, to bring structure, to bring the aspect of nursing, especially in the nursing field in healthcare, bring that professionalism to the table so that you don't have that do as I say and not as I do aspect, but I'm doing the right thing, follow my lead, right? And so
Right.
in healthcare, even as a young nurse, and I know you probably experienced this too, we came under a lot of people that said, I know this is how the policy says do it, but this is how I do it. You know, I know the
Right.
hospital wants me to be warm and fuzzy, but I don't have time for that, right? I know,
Right.
the manager told me to do it this way, but this way is easier, this way is faster, or we find our ways to make those shortcuts, right? And in
Right.
leadership, especially for women, sometimes we don't have that opportunity to make those shortcuts. We have to be, on our
Yeah.
game and doing the right thing and making sure that we're leading the people in the right direction so that they're not making
Right.
those shortcuts as well. Because at the end of the day, at the end point of it all is the patient that's laying in that bed or sitting on that table or sitting across from us in a chair. So when we make our decisions on a daily basis, we have to think about who's going to be affected by that, as a leader. And it could be our staff, it could be our patients, it could be the organizations that we work for.
Right. Good comments. You said a lot of things. I want to go back to when you mentioned something about sometimes we as women can be the individuals that bring the toxicity to the environment. Though women are very important in healthcare leadership and they do amazing things, and we have to be a step above our counterparts just because that's more of why we don't want to bring those negative things to the environment, because we already have something to prove
Right,
as is. And when I hear
right.
people talk about healthcare and women in healthcare, I don't always hear positive things. I always hear the catty gossiping, going
Mhm.
back and forth with people, comments from folks. And so
Right,
those are the things that we need to change, because as women, we are wanting to emphasize teamwork. We want people to look at us as a role model. And because we spend a lot of time coaching our team,
right,
because
right.
we build them up and inspire them, so we have no time and no room for negativity. And I just want to know, from your experience in healthcare leadership, what have you done to combat that?
I was I was under the mentorship of a really good CNO, Maria Calloway, and one of the phrases that she used, with us in leadership was, "What you permit, you promote." Right? So if you permit behaviors, if you permit yourself to engage in behaviors, in conversations, in actions, you're promoting that behavior. So what you permit, you
Mhm.
promote. And for me, handling conflict in, the realm that I'm in leadership and in healthcare, the first thing is you can't choose a side. You have to be very neutral on the situation, right? You can't choose a side, and you have to hear both sides, because there's always something, there's something that's happening, but there's an underlying reason why those things are happening, whether there's a conflict between two departments or whether there's conflict between two individuals. If there's conflict, whether it be verbal or whether it be via email, the way that I coach, my leaders and the staff is to have those conversations behind closed doors. You need to have a conversation with someone else, you pull them aside and you have that conversation. You want to always respect the area that you're in. You want to respect the person
Mhm.
that you're talking to. And as a leader, it's really important to walk the walk, right? So if I'm asking
Right.
them to, pull that colleague aside and have that conversation, or kind of reread your email. If you're at a heightened place and you need to respond, sometimes you need to step back and cool off a little bit before you send that email. Reread it, take a look at it, and make sure that the message that you're trying to display and convey
Mhm.
isn't a message that's full of emotion, right? And it's
Right.
one thing to lead by emotion. I mean, no one wants a leader that doesn't have emotions. However, it shouldn't dictate how you're going to handle conflict and conversations.
I love that. Handle things with logic, be
Right.
calculated, and don't handle things with emotions. Your emotions can really get in the way of you doing the right
Mhm.
thing. And that
Absolutely.
brings me to professional communication. Well, first,
Right.
professionalism in itself is your whole entire makeup. It's who you are, is what you say, is what you do. It's even the items you turn in. It's
Right.
everything that reflects who you are. But this
Absolutely.
communication, sometimes it could just be off key, especially with
Right.
emails. Okay.
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
you made a good point. You really
Yeah.
got to reread and make sure you're not doing the wrong thing and sending those communications.
Right. Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me as a leader is identifying you have to self-reflect, right? So when I
Mhm.
know that there's certain things that trigger me to be like, okay, I'm gonna have to step away. And especially when a lot of us, when we know we're right and we
Mhm.
know we have the answer, what I've learned in leadership is I don't have to always say it, right? I don't have to point
Right.
out I have the answer. I'm not, and someone may even come from a different aspect and have a better idea. Doesn't mean that my answer is wrong or
Mhm.
my process is
Right.
wrong.
I
It's
love
just
it.
that someone else has
Yes.
a different viewpoint, right? So as
Mhm.
self-reflection is a huge piece in leadership, because if you don't know
Yeah.
your own triggers, if you don't know your own biases, if you don't recognize the fact that there's certain things about you that that you have to work on, that certain things that people
Mhm.
say or email is sent, and you look at it and it's like, I can't believe this person said this, or whatever. That's where I get the let me walk away, and then
Yes.
come back
Yes.
with a sensible mindset, and then let
Mhm.
me respond. But self-awareness
Right.
is huge. And even people that are new to leadership, not even new to healthcare, not even in leadership, everything that we do is based on someone needing our service, right? And
Right.
so those people on the other end of needing our service, it could be emergent, it could be just a routine visit, it could be a telehealth visit just over a phone or a computer. But at that time, that person feels that whatever their thing is important. And so
Right.
as a healthcare professional, you have to dig deep to understand you're in a service industry, right? You're in a
Yeah.
your job is to provide a service to help our patients be better, to learn, to get well, to take their medications correctly, follow a certain diet. So I think the biggest thing
Right.
for us is just mainly as healthcare professionals, understanding that it's more than just the me, right? And you have to put me aside
Right.
sometimes, even at the sacrifice of someone being very upset and being
Right.
very, belligerent, or just because at that moment they're at their most vulnerable state. So,
Right.
so self-awareness plays a huge piece in leadership. It plays a huge piece in professional communication. And then just the golden rule: treat people, how you want to be treated. So if
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to be, talked down to, disrespected, then I'm definitely not
Mhm.
going to approach any conversation with anyone in that manner, right? So
Exactly.
that's the biggest piece. And I think in healthcare, we get bogged down in the hustle and bustle of everything that we have
Mhm.
to do. It does
Right.
get to be overwhelming. We have short staff everywhere across the country. There's a shortage of nurses.
Right.
There's a shortage of medical assistants. There's a shortage of phlebotomists. There's a shortage of everything. Even the people that serve food at McDonald's, or you know, um, grocery store workers. There's a shortage of in every industry. So
Right.
what we really need to think about is everyone's feeling that strain. But as a
Right.
healthcare professional, we signed up to be of service, and especially licensed personnel, right? Like I'm licensed, you're licensed, licensed personnel. We signed up to do no harm, and we
Right.
signed up to do the best job that we can to take care of patients. And so
That's
every
right.
day that has to be the mission and the goal.
Mhm. Excellent. Those of you who are just joining, this is Andrea Shivers. My name is Keishelle Hayes. We are two women in healthcare leadership. We are transformational leaders because we are inspiring, motivating, and helping to train and promote the next level healthcare professionals. And what we do, we take it very seriously. So we put forth great customer service, and we recognize that we could not be doing what we're doing if it wasn't for our patients that we serve. And even in my capacity with training the next level healthcare professionals, it's to take care of those patients. And we need to
Absolutely.
look at everybody that we care for as if they were ourselves or somebody that we love. But to
Mhm.
recap, if you missed this, we're talking about women being in healthcare leadership, how they strengthen their organizations. They also improve employee retention. They prevent employee burnout. They help to save time and resources. They function as a role model. They inspire their team. They spend a lot of time coaching their team. Women are doing important roles. And when we talk about professional communication, we're talking about how to build relationships, how to build positive ones, how to talk to people,
Right.
verbal and nonverbal, because over
Mhm.
half of our communication is nonverbal. So we got to watch
Nonverbal.
how we
Mhm.
point and, fold our arms and tap our fingers and huff and puff. And we're talking about handling conflict and how we
Right.
want to reward in public and reprimand in private. That's what made me think of that when you were talking about taking people behind closed door and talking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
Because that's the respect piece of it, you know.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
as a leader, I have to coach, and I have to, and there's always that place of discipline, right, when it's necessary. But I can do it in a respectful manner, and I
That's right.
can, maintain that person's integrity, so that they feel like I'm trying to help them and trying to coach them and mentor them to do better and to be better rather than trying to tear them down. And just like parents with children, discipline is necessary, right, to correct behaviors, but it's not the end all be all to say that someone is a bad person or someone's a bad nurse or someone's a bad healthcare tech or anything of that nature. But sometimes you have to redirect and get people in alignment so that they work as in tandem
Right.
with the team. So that culture of safety, the culture of a positive work environment, staff having that work life balance, that lays on leadership. That lays in the hands of leadership, and women in leadership. I think we have a lot of things that we juggle because a lot of us are mothers, a lot of us are taking care of family members, a lot of us multitask, even if we're not parents. A lot of women that I know that are in leadership are involved in a lot of different committees and on different boards and involved in
Yeah.
a lot of professional engagement type opportunities. And so as we juggle a lot of our outside life and work, sometimes, they kind of go hand in hand and sometimes they intermingle, right?
Mhm.
And so that helps us multitask. It helps us compartmentalize. It helps us build networks, because that network is very important.
That's exactly right. And that brings us to something else that I wanted you to talk about. Um, After all these things are said and done, what are we doing to bring about the next set of people who are going to take our place in leadership? How are we managing up? And I think before you have this conversation about managing up, Andrea, I think we should talk about it twofoldly,
Hmm.
because not only is it leadership promoting our subordinates, helping them to improve performance, supporting teamwork and collaboration, but it's also those good employees who are finding out what their leader likes, their perspectives,
Right.
how they work, their style, their preference, things of that nature. So tell me, you being a leader in healthcare, what do you do to manage up, and what does that mean to you?
For me, managing up is really allowing people that have gifts and abilities to show their gifts and abilities. So, me as a leader, as a director of emergency services and being over 4 EDs, I also have managers in those EDs, but it doesn't require me to shine every time something really good happens. For me, it's allowing them the opportunity to step up, managing them up, saying, you can do this. This is your department. I want you to take that tour with that CEO or with that congressman or that person that's coming from a different campus that wants to see our ED. This is your baby. This is your home. So when you manage up, you allow people to shine and show their own gifts, and then you
Right.
help coach them into the areas where they have opportunity to grow. That's where I work on. I don't try to work on areas that they already have that are working well. I work on the areas where they have
Right.
opportunities to grow. And it's not to say I need them to do it the way that I do it. I want them to know, this is how I govern. This is how I lead. This is how I handle certain meetings. This is how I handle, employee conflict, whatever that looks like. When I send out an email, this is how I follow up. And then with that mentorship, they develop their own style. But to manage up is
Right.
allowing people, because everyone has gifts. If they didn't have
Hmm.
gifts, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So everyone has
Right.
gifts. So you enhance their ability to use their gifts, and you allow them space to do that, right? And then
Right.
if they have questions, you're always there to support. And a lot of times
Mhm.
if I can't be on a meeting, my manage up is I appoint someone. Hey, I'm not going to be able to be on this meeting because I have a conflict. Can you do such and such? And then a lot of times they're like, absolutely, I'll love to do it, because it gives them the
Mhm.
opportunity to shine and show their gifts and show their talents. Right. So that's how I do it. That's how I try to govern. And even with frontline staff, if I have DHEC in the building and my charge nurse is there, guess who's rounding with me? My charge nurse, because
Okay.
she's on that floor every single day. She knows the ins, the outs, the processes, and I can speak to it just as well. But she's the
Mhm.
person that's doing it on a daily basis. And how good would it feel for her to be able to speak up and explain, this is our process for this, or this is our process for that. And at the end of the day, when they walk away and they're like, thank you so much, this was great, she feels good, or he feels good about themselves because they were able to speak on behalf of the department, right?
Right.
And I'm standing there. I don't have to do that. And in leadership, I feel once you get to a place where people can kind of operate on their own,
Mhm.
as a well-oiled machine, you're doing really good. Now, there's going to be times you're going to have to come in and intervene and fix the squeaky wheels. But I think getting people to a place where they can manage themselves, to know that they
Mhm.
have the autonomy to make a decision, to know that they can communicate
Right.
professionally, that's important.
Mhm.
Because I
Exactly.
don't think there's a leader out there, me, you, anybody that wants to hold someone's hand every step of the way.
No.
So success for me is getting my leaders to a place, and my frontline staff to a place where they can operate autonomously. And sometimes they call me and say, this person came through, or this happened, this is what I did, I hope it's right. And then I say, yeah, absolutely, this is great. Or next
Right.
time, I would do it this way. You never condemn the effort, right? But then you also
Right.
coach up. Yeah.
Excellent. This is wonderful information. And we're listening to Andrea Shivers. She is Emergency Room Director for MUSC. We are just excited that she is here with us. I'm Keishelle Hayes, and I am coming live from Canada. So I talked about consistency and making sure that I stayed on this live every week. So I'm in Canada and I'm coming live. And my wonderful friend, mentor at times, and just another beautiful woman in leadership is on with me. We did have another guest that was going to be joining us, but she couldn't. So a shout out to Avinia Bush, who will join us another time. And we are just thankful for her. And we'll talk a little bit more about her the next time she joins us. But we are
Absolutely.
talking about women in healthcare leadership, professional communication, handling conflict, and managing up. And what I
Absolutely.
want to go into next, because we've said some wonderful things. We have a lot of staffing gaps, and y'all, while we're waiting and talking, cheers from Canada. I don't know what Andrea got in hers. This look like apple juice in mine. But you all know that I train the next level healthcare professionals, and Andrea has to do that too because she has new people coming in to work all the time. Because there's such a shortage, not only did we have conflict and people, just going crazy in the healthcare industry before, but then the pandemic came, and then now there's all these staffing gaps. So
Absolutely.
we have people going to work and they feel like they are not getting the training that they deserve when they first start. They feel like they don't have the mentorship that's needed while they're there. And so it causes people to just walk out and leave. And what can we do to help people stay in healthcare and know that it is still that great rewarding industry?
I think And I know exactly what you're talking about because we feel it too on the hospital side of it with new grads, new nurses, with new techs and things like that, because we're so short staffed, right? Across the board, med surg, ED, ICU, no matter where you look, we need nurses. And the mindset of things is we got to get this person working. We got to give them enough information, get them enough training so that they can operate on their own. And so, but what that creates is someone that's task oriented, right? They get the task done. They draw the blood, they start the IV, they draw the blood, they do the EKG. But what does it mean when the labs come back? What does it mean, if the vein blows, and you got to take care of that, that line and that in the skin and those type things. So for me in the ED, what we created was an ED residency, and we were able to hire ED educator, and she solely was strictly our educator for emergency services for all 4 EDs. And so we created that ED residency because right when COVID was kind of trending back a little bit, and I looked at the culture of my nursing staff, really good nurses, right? Really good, skills, critical thinking, but they were tired and they were burnt out. And, as we started to interview people, and we were so desperate to have people, right? You start to interview people, you don't know what you're getting when you're sitting in front of someone interviewing them, right? You're looking at a resume, you're asking the questions, they show up, and you're just praying that they're everything that they have written on this that they typed on this piece of paper, right? So sometimes it's true and sometimes it isn't. But, I'm one of those, I'm kind of old school to where I'm going to help this person get where they need to be if it's the last thing I do, right? And if it's not for the ED, like if you recognize that it's not for the ED, then I'm going to find you someplace else where you fit best. But you're going to continue.
Now I know you will do that. I know you. Yes, you will do that.
I'm going to find some place for you to go because we need people, and the fit may not be emergency, but the fit could be med surg, the fit could be interventional radiology, the fit could be, telemetry, whatever that looks like. But for me, I think the biggest piece is meeting people where they are. If someone comes in and they just graduated from school, you have to know that you're starting from scratch. You can't expect them to take a full assignment and know exactly what they're reading and what they're interpreting, and knowing that the documentation is going to be correct, and knowing that, they have all the things together, and knowing what the doctor's ordering. They don't know. And
what they need, and Andrea, what they need to do, and sorry for the interruption, they need to remember when they were in school.
Absolutely.
Because I can't stand this. I can't stand it. I was a nurse. I was a new nurse. And when I came in, they act just like they never went to nursing school and had to learn just like me. I'm like, wait a minute. You're getting aggravated with me, but you went to school and you had to do this too. So stop.
You had to start from somewhere.
Aggravated. You got to start from somewhere. And I understand it's all the strain that you mentioned, but you can't treat people any kind of way.
Right. Well, and the message that I tell all my teams, from the preceptors to the charge nurses, even to my managers, you get in what you put out. You get out what you put in. Sorry. You get out what you put in. So if you give someone 50% of an orientation, half the information, half the skill check off, half the competency, half directions on how to do things, you're only going to get 50% out from that person. And it may be even less by the time they come off orientation because they're so frustrated that they don't even want to be there anymore, right? So one of the things that I, am big on is give that person everything you can. So when their orientation's over, you can walk away saying they're ready. Right. And it feels good as a preceptor and as a manager to say, no, this person's ready. They got it. And when I go to that nurse or to that tech and I'm like, are you good? You sure? I heard you coming off orientation. Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. and they have that confidence. You can see the confidence. That's what we need.
Yes.
But you have to meet people where they are. You have to put in 100%. You have to. And then recognize when you're not 100% that day, sometimes that
Right.
person needs to be with somebody else. I'm not 100% today.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you follow John over here, and then we'll come back together tomorrow, whatever that looks like. But I think a lot of it does have to do with, the onboarding, the orientation, throwing people into working really quickly without giving them all the tools that they need. A lot of it too, I find that a lot of people, unfortunately, are chasing a check. So they say, I got it. They kind of seem like they have it because they're ready to come off orientation. They want to pick up extra shifts. They want to do all these things. And on the back end of it, they're not ready. Right. So it's kind of twofold. I think for you, as far as your school, I think getting them into the right internships, getting them into the right preceptorships, into the right clinical rotations in the right environments will help them build that confidence so that when they get into the work environment, they're ready to go. Because unfortunately, in the work environment, everything's not warm and fuzzy where everyone's going to say, come with me, let me show you. We ideally want that to be the truth, but it's not, right? And so, and back in the day when
And I tell them that too.
Yeah.
I think Andrea is going out, or it might be me. Just give us a minute. She might come back through. Andrea, can you still hear us? So I think Andrea is having some technical difficulties, but she'll come back on. But we're having a wonderful discussion about women in healthcare leadership, promoting individuals who are subordinates, professional communication, managing up, handling conflict. We were in the middle of talking about how people get frustrated because they're going on these new jobs and they are not getting trained properly, and because of the short staff and the staffing gaps, I think that they are just becoming very frustrated and not giving these new employees what they deserve. And you're right, Shakila. Thank you so much for joining us. Sometimes there is no onboarding at all. They just expect you to just jump in there and just do. And it's not appropriate. I remember going to visit a certain place after my student was hired, and I was looking at the student and what they were doing, and I was just like, oh my God, what in the world? I know we did not teach you this at Professional Development and Training Services, but she became acclimated with the culture of where she was working, which was nothing like what we had taught her. And sometimes, and that's another thing that I wanted to talk to Andrea about, and she may come on and be able to join us back after she gets done with technical difficulty, is how sometimes you can be the good person who is coming into the environment, but you're coming in an environment with people that are doing all the wrong things. So instead of saying, well, I'm going to beat them, you join them. And that's not the right thing to do. So let's see if Andrea can come back with us. Is she ready?
Hey, I don't know what happened.
There you go. Yeah, I told them that something technical probably occurred, but let me share with you what I was saying to them. I wrapped up what you were talking about, the strain of them being frustrated, short staff, things of that nature. But I also talked about something that Shakila mentioned, and I thanked her for joining. Sometimes they get no onboarding. And then also I mentioned that there are times when people go into these environments and everybody is doing all the wrong things and they're the one doing the right thing. And then all of a sudden they get conformed to doing all the wrong things because they feel like they can't beat them. So they're just going to join them. I don't care what they are doing.
Yep.
You be the light, and like my pastor say, you brighten the corner where you are. Do the darn thing and do it well, and don't worry about what they're doing, because Your
Absolutely.
license is at risk at the end of the day. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is that I say all the time is, you know, we go to work, we've gone to school, we've got a license, we want to take care of patients, we want to do the right thing, right? And at the end of the day, we do get paid to do it, and nursing is a really good career to have.
Mhm.
However, you can't make the money without the license.
That's
And
right.
so if you're willing to take risk with your license by not following policies and procedures and reading and doing your own research and understanding what you're
Mhm.
doing and understanding why you're doing it and not just doing it because someone told you to, you know, then, you're putting your license at risk, but you're also putting your livelihood at risk.
That's right.
So if you love your
And the
livelihood,
patient
you
at
would
risk.
you right, and you're putting the patient, yeah, right, you're putting the patient at risk. But if you love your livelihood, right,
Right.
then do whatever you need to do to protect it, and that's doing the
Mhm.
right
That's
thing for the
it.
patient.
That's right. That's so good. Oh, that's so good. And we're talking about integrity, and you're doing it right,
Hmm. Hmm.
not just because people are watching, but when they're not. And even
Right.
let's talk about this too. Even when you're not getting rewarded and you're not getting the accolades, because there are a lot of people working in healthcare that don't ever, 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 ever get a thank you. They
Right.
don't ever get an incentive, and their
Right.
pay sucks,
Right.
and they already starting out at the bottom of the bottom. So, it's just a whole lot. But
It
we
it
are
it,
women
it is a lot,
in
but I
healthcare
think
changing this.
it's definitely been a shift. So, you know, one of the things that we have to get back to, when COVID came, and it took everybody by surprise. No one
Mhm.
was ready for such a pandemic.
No one.
Supply chain, nursing, physicians,
Right.
transportation, dietary. When you're talking about a hospital system across the country, any hospital system, there wasn't anybody prepared for what we were going to endure. So we had to make do with what we had. We had to think on our feet. We had to pivot and move. Every single day there was a pivot and a move. One minute you have these type N95s, the next minute you don't. One
Mhm.
minute you can dispose of them after every use. The next minute you got to put them in a paper bag and hold them for 30 days, until they're soiled and wet, and then you got to, those type things. And so
Mhm.
because we had to pivot and move and kind of live on the edge every single day, with nursing, I can say, and in healthcare, I can say we did what we had to do to keep patients alive and well, and
Right.
the ones that were well that was in the hospital, keeping them from getting COVID, preventing
Mhm.
them from being sick and getting sick with COVID. And so now that we're on the other side of the pandemic, it's still out
Mhm.
there, it's still prevalent, right?
Right.
But now that we're on the other side of it, let's get back to the basics of nursing,
Right.
because we're
That's
not
it.
in
And
a
how do we
pandemic
do that?
anymore. Yeah.
And
And
how
so
do we
how
do
we
that?
so how we're trying to instruct that to happen is going back to simple things. I think you probably heard about aided before, when you're acknowledging the patient, introducing yourself, explaining what's
Right.
going on, thanking the person, what to
First.
expect. This is what's going to happen during your visit. Thank you for choosing us, taking the time to connect with the patient. And so within our EDs, we have a process called Commit to Connect, and we have chairs in all
Mhm.
of the ED rooms. And that reason is so that the nursing staff, the physicians can commit to sit, where they sit down and take at least 5 minutes to talk to the patient, find out exactly what's going on, go over medications, so that they don't feel like they're being rushed, so that they don't feel
Right.
like they're, just another number. But getting back to the basics is having staff truly having to communicate, because we got
Mhm.
out of the just a simple, "Hi, my name is Andrea, I'm going to be your nurse today." I know you're here for this. This is what we're going to do. This is what you can expect. The doctor's going to be in here in a minute. Even going back an hour later saying, I know you're waiting on labs, but, give us about 15 more minutes. Do you need anything? So that aspect of healthcare was lost during COVID because you were in and out, in and out, in and out, just trying to get things done. And as much as you tried to do it, it didn't always happen the way you wanted it to. It didn't always happen. So now on the other side of it, that is something we're truly, truly stressing. And getting back to being a healthcare professional and saying, I take pride in this role. Every day when I walk into this place, I'm going to give my best effort and be proud of the fact that you're a nurse, that you're an EKG tech, that you're a medical assistant, that you're a phlebotomist, and that you get to do it every day. Because that's something we get to do. We don't have to go to work. But we get to
do it. We get to do it. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So the culture, to my own opinion, and just what I've seen in healthcare, the culture was already struggling before the pandemic, and it just went over the edge during the pandemic. And I think now what's happening is we're trying to fix the culture that we were trying to fix prior to the pandemic. And now that has gotten worse after the pandemic, we're doing both in one while still trying to fill these staffing gaps and then still trying to be compassionate all at the same time for what we used to do. And that's why I say so many times, and I think you mentioned this at our last graduation, you have to dig deep and go back to your why and remember the whole reason why you got in healthcare from the beginning. And I think some of us have lost that and forgotten about that. And most importantly, we've forgotten that we one day are going to need the same system, and we don't want it to fail us. We don't want it to fail us. Okay?
Absolutely. I think the biggest piece of it with just in general, it doesn't even matter if you're in healthcare. If you chose to apply for a job, and you chose to go there to apply, the owner, unless that owner came to you and said, "Come work for me," and it wasn't really something you wanted to do, but you went on and did it anyway. Unless that happened, you went and looked for that job. You applied for that job. You asked that person, "Do you have positions available? I want to work here." So because you did that work, then why wouldn't you give your best effort when you show up?
I think that goes back to, I'm not making an excuse, I promise you, but I've seen the best people go apply for a job, really want the job, and then they get in a culture where nobody else is doing the right thing, so they don't care what they do. I have seen it, but that's no excuse, because you should still choose to do the right thing no matter what they're doing. But I've seen good people apply for a job and then go in there and the culture sucks. And so they just get, they
get sucked in.
Stuck with that culture.
Yep, they get sucked in.
But like you're saying, if you're going to go all the way out and do that, give your all.
Right. Well, and I think the thing is that we have to hold leadership accountable. Right.
Yes.
So what I do and what I try to do is when we're onboarding new people, and I say, if you're not getting what you need to tell me. You need to tell your manager that you're not getting what you need. If you're with a preceptor that you're not learning from, or you're having difficulty communicating with, I need you to speak up, and I need you to say something. Because what happens a lot of time is that people don't say anything and they don't speak up. And then by the time they're done with orientation or somewhere in the middle of orientation, they're ready to go because they just can't take it anymore. So I have that open dialogue when I speak to new orientees and people that we're, interviewing and onboarding, because I want them to know and feel, okay, I can go to her and say, this isn't working. I feel like I need someone else, or if it's great, tell me that too. And I give them my cell phone number, my work cell phone number. This is my number. Call me, text me. And it's not to say that I want you to jump, the chain of command, but I want to hear the feedback. And I think a lot of people that are going into healthcare, they're not holding the leaders accountable until they're frustrated.
Right.
And
Yes,
until
that's
they're ready to quit. And
true.
then it's,
Mhm.
you didn't do this for me. You didn't
Right.
give me the right preceptor. You didn't give me the right schedule. You didn't. But if I had known that you had difficulties, if I had known you had some challenges, or that the communication was off, or that there was some conflict, or you just weren't getting what you needed, maybe there was a better suit for you with someone else. You didn't give me the opportunity to do that. So
But
with the new
also, what
people,
about the people that did tell someone that this is going on, but they ignored them?
yeah. And that's a
They didn't
part of
even they
leadership
didn't speak.
that I can't really explain, because everybody governs themselves differently.
Right.
Everybody's priorities are different. For me, I look at it as this. As a healthcare leader, I want to be able to train people and get people working independently to the point where when they see me, all they can say is, "Hey, how you doing?" And when I say, "What do you need?" they're like, "I got it." And the things that they do
Yeah.
need is something that I can physically help them with, right?
Hmm.
um, but that is because I believe in people being able to govern themselves, managing up, making sure that they are have that autonomy to speak up, to act on things, to make phone calls, simple things like
Right.
putting work orders in, getting things fixed in the department. That's not always on
Right.
me, right? That's not always the manager. But I think leaders that want to own it all, right? And no one does anything. There's some leaders that are oblivious to the conflict. There's all
Right.
different types of leaders out there, and unfortunately, those new people that are coming on board, you don't know what you're going to get. Just like we don't know what candidate we're getting, they don't know what type
Right.
of leader they're
They don't know
getting.
what
They
they're
only can
getting.
trust. Yep, yep.
Mhm. Well, we're talking to Andrea, and she is setting the bar because she is one of those women in healthcare leadership that really cares about what she's doing. She's very compassionate, and she's just amazing. So we're getting
Thanks.
close to that 9 o'clock mark, and I know that we started a little late, but we're going to give you some inspiring words before we leave. Just want to tell you, Andrea Shivers is with us today. She's the director of the emergency room for MUSC. She directs 4 of them, and she's an amazing community advocate, woman in leadership, and a transformational leader. So we were happy to have her. Those of you who were watching, I know you got a lot of good information. Those of you who are going to join us in the replay, please let us know by doing #replay. We thank you all so much for the support. This is a conversation that needs to be had all the time and
Oh,
more.
absolutely.
So I'm sure Andrea is going to come back with me and join us. But
Absolutely.
before we go, you've been amazing, absolutely amazing. But
Thank
before we go, I want us to leave you with something inspiring. And so we're going to talk about how you end your week strong and how you overcome adversity. Andrea, you got something to leave us with?
I will say that you have to allow space for grace, because as a leader, we're not going to always get it right. We don't always have the answers. We're human
Right.
beings and we have opinions. We get overwhelmed. We try to handle it all and carry everybody's, burdens and their things. But for me, at the end of the day, that I can hang my hat on is that every day I try to put forth my best effort. And when
Yeah.
I coming through COVID and just being so overwhelmed, one with emotion and the other with the task to take care of my staff, I knew
Mhm.
that I had to be able to allow space for my own grace to say that I'm not going to always get it right, and I don't always have the answer, and it's okay, right? Because as a leader, I always have space to grow as well. So I would say for anybody, no matter what level that you're in healthcare or on any job, allow space for grace, because you're not going to always do it 100%, but you get another day to
Right.
try to do it again.
Yes. I love that. I love that so much. That is just amazing. You all can take that for a lifetime and live by that. And I just want to say, you're going to face adversities, and
Mhm.
you will never not have a tough something on any
Right,
given day to have to
right,
handle. But just don't give
right.
up. Keep getting up and moving forward. Don't let it
Absolutely.
linger, and don't stop and stay in that
Right.
place. Move
Absolutely.
forward. And like Andrea says, give it your best shot every single day.
Mhm.
And do
Every
not
day.
get conformed by what is around you. And don't let the adversities distract you from that focus, that goal, that destiny that you're trying to reach. Because ultimately, that's what they're for, to stop you from getting to that final place. And that
Hmm.
place is going to be so good. It's going to be so great. And the more
Right.
you're faced with certain things, you know you're getting close to it, because every little thing is coming. All the attacks are happening at one time. And as
That's
soon
right.
as you give up, that's when you're defeated. But don't
Mhm.
let it get you. Keep
That's right.
going and keep being
That's
the
right.
best that you can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the key. Thank you, Keisha, for
Wonderful.
having
Thank you
me.
so
I
much.
greatly appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. You are an amazing woman. You are my woman inspiration. You're my good friend. I absolutely adore you. Thank you for what you're doing in
Thank you.
healthcare. It was so nice to have you all the way from Canada. I was live, and this couldn't be more
Absolutely.
perfect than it was. So I'm going to share with you my journey next week about why I'm in Canada and how things went. But for now, we thank you all so much for joining and for listening. Hope that you will go back through this live and use this information for future reference. And thank you so much for your support. And we're going to say good night all the way from Canada. And we'll see you next
Good
week.
night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.